following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
You have to do your own system. And that's what I didn't get when I got the job, is I was trying to do John Ward's system. And you can't do that. You have to, but it takes a period of time to figure out what really works for you. And the research part is a big thing. And working the draft really helps me toward the season. And for all teams, because I'll take all this work that I've done and I'll plug in all the guys the Buffalo Bills draft, and I'll plug in all the guys that the Arizona Cardinals draft. And so that helps with the preparation for them as well.
We're going to run over with them.
We already have.
I got a few more with you. I want to go back to the 99 draft out in Bellevue. And I remember it's coming up. Andy Katzenmoyer was the talk. And although the Floyd Reese would have never admitted this, and they wanted him. And the Patriots took him. And after him was Javon Curse.
Okay.
I remember his name popped up. We're in Bellevue, like, he's a tweener, and he did okay at Florida. I'll just remember when they took Javon Curse out there, how that really changed on the field for that franchise that first year. You plug Katzenmoyer in there, I don't think we're talking this conversation at all about going to the Super Bowl. It's just a weird moment for me.
Do you remember who led us in sacks in 98? Lonnie Martz.
Wow.
With 5.5. I mean, we needed a pass rusher bad, Joe. And to get the freak, and for him to be the freak.
Yeah.
And for him to play at Florida in that era where, again, back to the Tennessee-Florida thing was the story. In the Southeastern Conference, that was the game every year. And so we get a great SEC player who's got a great nickname, who fits our need, who has this great personality. He was transformative. And that's why he's going in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame July 23rd, because he is a guy that he was the first Titan officially. Mm-hmm. And what he meant that first year. And again, back to the Caravan. There are so many pictures of kids with Javon Curse palming their head. That was the picture everybody wanted, right? Because his hands are so massive. And he would palm little kids' heads, and their parents would take their picture. And such a nice guy, just such a pleasant human being. I think he's going to move back here eventually, because every time he comes into town, he can't get over, Joe, how much people love him.
He's a rock star.
He's a rock star.
He's a rock star.
And that, you hit it, though. Andy Katzenmoyer might have ended up being a better player. Maybe. But the bottom line was, for us at that moment, to get an SEC guy that people knew with a unique nickname, with the personality, and then for him to just be off the charts good, wow.
13 years it'll be since McNair passed away. When you go back and watch, and you're on every call that he did, will there ever be another him? I mean, as much as quarterbacks are valued, because that guy he did things in the field nobody else has done since, I don't think.
I agree. I don't think we'll ever have another one. I mean, we may have one that's better. Tannehill's put up better statistics and has won a lot of games for us and has played well, but the McNair factor and his ability to do the spectacular was just quite different. And you can both speak to this because you were around in the era. The athlete that he was just unbelievable. He could have started for us at safety. He probably would have played. He could have played running back for us.
The reason he went to Alcorn State was to play quarterback.
Right, that was the only place because everybody recruited him. For years, he and Terrell Buckley held the state record for interceptions. Everybody and their brother, Florida State recruited him as a defensive back. Mississippi State recruited him as a defensive back. You know, this guy was just something else. And you can probably remember the charity softball games. And he was the MVP of the charity softball games. He had 2 home runs. He nearly took one completely out of Greer Stadium over the baseball fence. And I said, hey, that's great. I said, you play a lot of softball? He goes, I hadn't played softball in like 7 years.
But then 2 hours before every game, somebody had to go find him because he'd take a nap.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because Steve, unfortunately, didn't take really good care of himself. Yeah. He was the opposite of Eddie. Eddie really took great care of himself. Steve didn't take care of himself until the end of his career.
Right.
Or he would have played
But
more.
a lot of that was just, hey, I just show up and play football.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's who he was.
Whether I have my sternum hanging out of my body or not.
Or I have no sternum.
Yes.
As they found out he had no sternum.
Unbelievable. All right, last thing I'm going to ask you. You said to Greg and I a couple years ago at training camp about new sports reporters, old sports reporters, about one thing they should always do. And I tell, when I go speak to people like you do, I always bring your name up and I tell this. You said for somehow, some way, stay grounded to high school football. Mm-hmm. And whatever you could do, stay grounded to that sport. And why?
Because it's the most pure. If you watch it, you know why you love it. I've gotten out and watched our girls flag football league in Williamson County this spring, and you watch those girls play and you're like, man, the love of the game, the fun, seeing anybody make a big play, seeing the reaction of the crowd, understanding how it affects so many people, and that football is a communal sport for us in this part of the country. It's a gathering. It's not just a game. Moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and cousins and everybody in the band and the cheerleaders and the people working the concession stand. The atmosphere, to me, is just so important to understand that we may be walking into Lambeau Field on Sunday, but it is no more important than walking in to Oakland High School on a Friday night. And that carries over to college and the pros. And I think I'm really proud of the Titans that we have stayed involved with the high schools the way we have.
Yes.
And that we have continued to, like with this girls flag football league. If you haven't seen this yet, it is so much fun. And how they're doing it is fantastic because by playing on Sundays, they're not making girls give up other sports. So they can do more than one thing, and they're just having a blast. And you say, it's a great game, and it's a great game for everybody.
Well said. Thank you, brother.
Is this part 1 of the interview? And do we start part 2 in a minute?
Go days. I know you're busy.
Well, I have Kenyon Green on.
Yeah. Okay.
Plug the coverage tomorrow on the Zone.
Well, today, because it's coming out on Thursday.
Yes. I'm sorry.
It will start at 6:00, and we'll go all the way through every pick, probably do about through 11:30. And then on Friday, all of rounds 2 and 3. So we'll have all 105 picks on 104.5 The Zone starting at 6:00 on Thursday and Friday night. And you can listen online or on the app or wherever you tune in. And we enjoy doing it. Coach Dave McGinnis is an amazing listen when it comes to the draft. He's watched over 250 players on tape. He still breaks it down.
Did you watch Kenyon Green?
He's familiar with it.
Oh, my mother used to get on me about my posture so much.
What is it supposed to be though? Because I've
I
felt
think
like
it's sit up, right?
Yeah, but this
Or your chest out?
like this.
I'm sure it's not this.
Yeah.
And now they're going to sell it in an online auction.
Oh yeah, I did go there. I went there the other day, or not the other day, a couple weeks ago with my dad. We were checking it out.
There?
Mm-hmm. It was right after we got done with McKendree Towers.
Out there in Dixon.
Yeah. Oh, this is in Dixon. Where is this spaceship? What spaceship is this?
let's bring into the show Christine Dubry. She's Executive Director of Tennessee Senior Olympics. Christine, did I say your name correctly?
Perfectly. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you should be PR for the city of Nashville. That's your new job.
I love supporting different things, and the Parthenon may be my favorite attraction. I don't know.
Buddy Allen, it's a tradition. Come on into our store. Buddy Allen, it's a heritage for 40 years and more. What makes a house kind of special? Close friends walking in the door. Flowers blooming in the springtime and little children playing on a Buddy Allen floor.
Our guest this week is somebody that I've known for about 20 years, but she rocketed to stardom in a way that most people don't do that. Let's welcome in Scotty Nell Hughes today. Scotty, good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you. And like I said, the only thing that you have to guarantee an immediate hit in Nashville, Tennessee, as opposed to anywhere else in the world, is biscuits and jam or whatever attempt at French you tried there.
Yeah. But
Greg left a box of biscuits 2 weeks ago here, and I think he fretted all week about leaving.
well, I have an adult special needs adult, and he loves them. So every week I take them home to him and everything. Where to start with you? I mean, a journalist.
So many people ask those questions. I think my husband does every morning.
Yeah, and you're certainly in a lightning rod in a lot of ways, and certainly for your political beliefs. And I'm not here to judge one way or the other, but man, how do you handle what you believe being so polarizing? Because in our country right now, I think both sides are controlled by the fringes, and that if anybody tries to be moderate, here's my political statement: they're eaten by their own people.
That's a great way to
they
put
are.
it.
They're eaten by their own people, and so. I got to know, how did it evolve from you being at Fox 17 to where you are now?
Well, politics itself is polarizing. Everybody has an opinion, whether it's talking about sports, music, pop culture, but especially in politics. And even if people say, oh, I don't care, I don't know enough about it, they can still have an opinion after 1 minute of reading whatever is given to them, and they'll have an opinion on it. So going into it that you're going to have someone that's going to like you and someone that's not going to like you. How I came from Nashville, Tennessee, growing up here, hometown girl, is that around here, we have here, and it's not only just Nashville, it's the South, we have a different way. I might not agree with you, but I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to smile at you, and I'm not going to be rude. That is what I think one is the main reason why I've been able to go national, is because I can get along with the other side. In fact, I value the other side. And oftentimes I try to find the common ground between the two, like we do here so often in Nashville, that we've seen it. I call it a fusion, political fusion. We have music fusion, we have sports fusion. This is, which is what I could consider to be a lot of the different sports that we're starting to play now. But it's a fusion. And so I appreciate the other side. I want to hear from them, because as long as they're talking, I have job security. It's if we're all agreeing, then I'm out of a job.
That's a good point to put that way. You've got a family. We're not going to get into deep dive into the family with the kids, because I think they need to be off limits. When all the attacking with you was going on and still going on, I read your Twitter, everything. Your kids ever say anything to you about this?
They have as they've gotten older. I mean, I've been doing this now for, like you said, 20 years. And so they know controversy. And to be honest with you, we have a lot of discussions in our house. Everybody usually, if you're in a family, usually the kids know what mom and dad does. Well, mom and dad in my family are in politics. And so we have these conversations. And I love to get their take on it. Often, especially these past few weeks, I've asked them, are they discussing? When we had a few days ago or a few weeks ago, we saw what happened with the Oscars. I asked, were people talking about the slap heard around the world? I wanted to see, what is this next generation? What are they looking at the adults handling right now? And how well are they judging we're handling it? And I have to tell you, it's not good. And it has nothing to do with politics. This next generation of students, of children, they're very much, I'm afraid we're going to have a great rebellion. And that's not a bad thing, because I think they've seen some of the mistakes that we've made, not only as parents, but as a society. And they're not going to want to make those same mistakes.
All right, so you were here. How did you get from here to D.C., New York, on that part of it? Because I know you were here, did radio for a while. You were with Steve Gill, and then did you do something with Phil Valentine?
I did Phil Valentine,
Yep.
Steve Gill, and then I went on and brought on Michael Berry. A lot of the guys here in Nashville. Women in talk radio. It's really not a popular thing. I think you hear women in talk radio and you think it's my ex-wife nagging me, and that's for men and women, so they turn it off. So it's very hard for a female to be in talk radio. So I did a lot of, commentary on that side of it. It really just became a fact that I think I was able to relate. I was relatable. And you say that my children, the families are off limits. I get it. But in a world when there's so much fakeness in the world today, people can't trust what's going on. So the fact that I'm a mom and I'm handling a lot of the same issues that other mothers, regardless of what political opinion they're of, that they're having to deal with, whether, it talks about what's, the curriculum in your school, or whether the extra stress that's going on students and the mental health of students right now, I've always been able to bond with those people. And I think that's the reason why I've been able to take from Nashville, Tennessee, and go all the way. It's not only just Washington, New York, right now around the world. Obviously, I've had a platform internationally here for the last, few years. And it's been amazing to watch how I can bond with a mother in Thailand, and we can find something that she's having to deal with the same sort of issue that I'm dealing with as a mother of a middle schooler.
Explain that part of it. The last couple of years, the international part you get there. Who were you working with? What company was it?
So I was working with, it was a production company that had international shows in 11 different networks all around the world. Every country in the world had the joy of having Southern Charm on their airwaves, which was funny because they thought I was the one with the accent. I'm going, no, wait a minute. Whenever I would talk to people, I'm like, but I can't understand. Oh, anyways. But I was the one that they were strangers. So I worked for a production company that my show went on everywhere from in every country, including Moscow and Russia to be. But I was also with the BBC. I was also with Sky News, the Great Britain News. So I did a lot of different networks around the world because everybody was interested in what was going on in the United States. Whether they were interested in, like, people watched Comedy Central, or if they were actually legitimately looking at the news coming out of here, we provided a lot of entertainment for those outside of U.S. borders when they watched the events going on here in the U.S.
And the connection, though, now to, as you mentioned it, a component of it was in Russia, and everything that's happening internationally now, we know all about that. You sort of got tied to that and was used against you, correct?
And used against me or not, the key is, and this is what is great about being an American, is we have this thing called freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And so the ability for I to call out either side of it and to never be censored on it was something that I cherish and I really do respect. So yes, they tied, but right now they're tying anything from cats to dressing, if they have Russian in its name, to being bad. That is just superficial. It doesn't matter what the opinions were. In the end, I joke right now, I'm a modern day hippie. I'm the biggest peace-loving, no war person that I would be holding the protest myself and burning bras on the state capitol if they would let me. That was more my message. It was that at this time we've got enough problems here within our own borders that we needed to worry about. That resonated with lots of people around the world because guess what? This time it's my child that gets drafted. It's my child's friends that go off to war, and I don't want to see that happen.
You know, when I read, it's funny because you'll just pop on social media and see something, and I saw, I guess 6 months ago, labeled you spewing Russian government propaganda. And I'm like, that's Scott. I'm so proud of her. I'm like, wait, hold on. What the hell's going on here?
All the way from Hendersonville.
Right. When you read that stuff, I mean, half the people are going to take that literally like that's what she's doing. How do you define those lines?
Because it's sort of like Margaret Thatcher used to say, when they call you names, they've run out of things to actually talk about you.
Our guest the voice of the Nashville Predators, Pete Weber. Pete, hello. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for calling me in. I very much appreciate this.
We called you in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Went to the bullpen in the 8th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were looking, and Goose Gossage comes out of the bullpen.
I was looking for Raleigh Fingers.
Well, I just saw Raleigh Fingers not that long ago, and he's still using gallons of mustache wax to keep that thing
Gallons.
Hey, you're known for something. Pete, a lot of things to get to. But what this team has just went through a couple weeks ago, really the pinnacle of a lot of different things. Of course, the run to the Stanley Cup Finals is the on-ice pinnacle. But the outdoor series game,
Yes,
and the 2 days before that, the ceremony to retire Pekka Rinne's jersey and hang it in the rafters of Bridgestone Arena. What a great 72 hours.
great 72 hours. And I was reminded of that again recently. We're in Minnesota, where they're retiring another jersey, Mikko Koivu, before the game on Sunday. And that brought back more memories of Pekka's night.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting the game with tears in my eyes again. So it's just unfair. But no, it's great to see how the fans respond to those things. And then the outdoor game, the second ever for the Predators, the first one ever within the confines of the state of Tennessee. Oh, what a show that turned out to be.
You go all the way from, let me guess, October the 10th of 1998.
Yes, sir.
Because my daughter was born October 8th. That's why I remember that.
Was she home by the time of the first game?
We got home that day. Or that Saturday, we got home. Yeah, so I remember that. But to see the game evolve and get over to Nissan Stadium, you were there from ground one. I mean, what was that like?
Absolutely incredible, number one. And I have to give thanks here to another friend of ours, Joe Fisher, who was kind enough to lend me his 8-power wide-angle binoculars because sitting in the football broadcast, I needed that for the plays down to my right. That was needed. And it worked perfectly even over these very thick glasses of mine. And I was able to pick out who was doing what.
Did you use the monitor for that game or no? Did you use monitors at all?
I do. We'll look at them sometimes for confirmation, but you really don't have time. And now this was different that night. We had a direct video feed from the truck.
Okay.
So there was no delay. That helped a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what, 60, what did they say? 68,000. Mm-hmm.
That was a fantastic show. Fantastic show. So that was been the second largest crowd ever for the Predators. The first was at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas with 80-some thousand on New Year's Day a couple of years ago. And then this, and who would have thought that from that October 10th night, where the public here in Music City gave the Predators a standing ovation for the opening faceoff.
Amazing. Amazing. Let me take you back to the Pete Weber, the Notre Dame graduate. All right. You graduate Notre Dame. You called some games up there, right, already with the student-run broadcast?
Yes.
Hockey, basketball, but whatever.
Did all those, and then I went back for my grad degree and worked for the commercial station doing Notre Dame hockey as well. And those were fun times. And that's why can't wait for Sunday's NHL or college hockey selection show, much like the people did for basketball. College hockey will be next Sunday.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you go back and so you start doing hockey. What's your first job outside Notre Dame? Once you leave, get your grad. And all
my
that.
hometown radio station, Galesburg, Illinois, WGIL. I started there in December of 72. I graduated midterm, and that was my first job. And then from there, back to South Bend, on to Buffalo, on to Los Angeles, on in a summer to Albuquerque. Then Chick Hearn got me the job with the brand new Sonic Super Channel. Folks, there was a basketball team in Seattle named the Supersonics. And I worked there for a year, then went back. After I covered Gaylord Perry winning his 300th game for AP Radio, I went back to Buffalo and was there for 20 years until I came here.
And the Bisons, obviously, the AAA there, that was such a large part of your career. Everybody here knows you for what you've done here.
Yeah.
And obviously with Crispy, and we're going to get to that here in a little while, just the evolution of that. But the Buffalo, you're in the Buffalo Hall of Fame. You're in the New York State Athletics Hall of Fame. You're in the Cheese Curd Hall of Fame. I don't know what it is.
I have not made the cheese curd yet. I am still waiting for that selection.
No, that's Wisconsin. No, the hot wing, the Buffalo wings. But that right there, if there's a large chunk of your career, that's sort of defines you in a lot of ways, right?
It does. And here's the interesting thing. I now have been in Nashville longer than I was in Buffalo. So I guess I've earned the gray hairs, to be certain. But Nashville has been really the bulk of my career. But yeah, Buffalo is where I was allowed to develop and grow up professionally, calling all the sports there.
I got to ask, you know what's coming with the, you worked with OJ in Buffalo, and this is before everything that went on.
Yes, folks. I wasn't working with him
what happened?
in June of, okay.
What happened?
What was it like? Okay, I guess your reaction from this. When you saw all that go down and you worked with OJ for so many years, that had to be so surreal for you.
It was surreal. It was crushing. I was having a difficult time at the outset believing it. I was in contact with not the Kardashian family, but some of his attorneys, wondering if there was any, character witnesses they were looking for. I did a weekly sports talk show at his sports bar, the American Sports Bar and Grill on Transit Road in Buffalo. And OJ would frequently just drop in. When he was doing an NBC game that week, he would drop in Thursday, Friday, and just, as we say, shoot the bull with us.
Was it before all this? I mean, he had to be walking like the king of Buffalo.
I think better than that, over and above that. Yeah, that was... he was the king of Buffalo, even though he was asking for various trades over the passage of time, and ultimately got sent home to San Francisco shortly after the Bills' disastrous 56-17 defeat by the Seahawks.
Oh, goodness. We're talking 77,
yeah.
So that's like their expansion year. They got drubbed by expansion
The year
team.
after, yes.
But later on, those 4 Super Bowls,
Yes.
You were part of that. Jim Kelly hosting shows. Tell us about that part of the Buffalo experience.
So it was, our station had the rights. So I had the Bill Polian show, the Jim Kelly show, the Marv Levy show, and then later on, I had a show. This is how crazy Bill's Mafia got. We had a show with the long snapper, Adam Lingner, who I still see when we go to Dallas. That's where he lives now. And we did a takeoff on the old Adams Family Open. He is the Bills long snapper. He's, Andy Snapper. The Adam Lingner show.
What would that have, had they just won one? Just one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The narrative would have been changed so dramatically.
There'd be so many more card tables that had not been broken after all that.